I am Hoardergamer, and this is Hoarder's Comic Flex. We're going to have some comic book reviews. We're going to have some video game news, or opinion, I guess you could say. We're also going to toy around a bit, look at some toys that are either going to go on sale soon or were just announced. And then we're going to go look at the future of comic books. So, today we actually have two reviews. Our first comic book review today is Edenwood. Edenwood #1. And the cover is awesome. I love the cover and the character on that cover. That character is not in this issue. Now, I'm pretty sure they'll probably be in like issue 2 or something like that. But at no point does that character show up. So what can happen is 6 months to a year before the book comes out, it's getting written, covers are being done and everything like that. At that point, maybe this character was in the first issue. All that stuff can change. Could also be that the artist who did this cover just loved the character and was like, that's going to be my alternate cover for the book. So, Edenwood is this wild story of a war between witches and demons. But what's interesting about this is while people dress in cloaks and talk about the magic and the demons and stuff like that, at no point do I recall seeing magic. I saw demons do scary things in here, but I don't see a lot of magic usage or anything. And at one point there's a series of military vehicles and tanks and stuff, which is part of the witch army apparently that wants to fight the demons. And one thing that's interesting takes place in my home state of Wisconsin. The Williams Bay, Wisconsin, 1 mile from the Edenwood barrier. And that's a barrier between the witch world and reality, apparently. Now, part of me thinks something really weird is going on here, and maybe it isn't witchcraft. Maybe that's just what they were being told since they were younger. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. At one point, they also say that news, like newspapers, are the comic books that they're reading. So that was interesting, too. And that was propaganda, was one of the comic books, that it wasn't even true. So that's interesting. All of a sudden, these kids are kind of almost on a picnic, these teenagers. And all of a sudden, terrible noises. 2 of them go out into the woods to make out. That would be Adelaide and Rion. And the other kids just, stay there. Insanity happens, part of a war or an attack by the demons. And everyone gets separated. And Rion's trying to find Adelaide. Finds Adelaide's dog, or their pet dog, but it's a skeleton. And things just go crazier from there. All of a sudden, this hunter character comes and saves Rion's life. Flash to 3 years in the future, and this hunter has a promise to still find Adelaide, who hasn't been found yet. It's pretty wild. It's written and the art is done by Tony S. Daniel, and Tony S. Daniel is kind of a comic book legend. It's really good, but there's so much it has that it's hiding from the reader. There's a lot here to digest and be well, wait a minute. Is that part happening? Is this really happening? Wait, how can this person still be alive? But I feel that it's all going to make sense probably at the end of the first 5 or 6 issues, the first arc. Michael, Stixie, very good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. But yeah, Edenwood #1 is good. At first, it seems a little overwhelming because it's one of those books that's hey, here on the first page, we're going to introduce 5 characters to you. And I was okay. And I'm just ready for that. And things change. Things get very interesting, and it really focuses on 2 characters. 3 technically at the very end. things are not always what they seem in the comic book Edenwood and probably in the world of Edenwood as well. So, yeah, I really like it. I think it's good. Also, Image, most of their books are $3.99, which is like $1 less, if not more, than most of the other companies out there. So that's something to keep in mind too. But yeah, super cool cover. This awesome looking character, and they unfortunately again are not in this issue. I'm almost certain they'll be in the second issue, but yeah, there's a number of things that I have kept kept secret here because I didn't want to ruin the book for you. There's certain reveals that occur even in this first issue where it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So, okay, Edenwood #1, again written and also art by Tony S. Daniel, and yeah, Edenwood #1 is our first review of the day. Now, everybody, we have video game news / video game opinion, and we are going to start with what we start with almost every damn week, a Diablo 4. So, and there's a reason for it. A lot of people were very upset, freaking out. They're like, I'm done with Diablo. Diablo can go to hell. Get it? Because you're fighting demons and the game could go to hell because you're upset. Okay. So Diablo 4: The Season of Blood is great, and most players are very excited by it. I myself spent about 45 minutes today in what's called a Blood Harvest. That's a new world event that occurs during the season, and it was brutal and fun. Some of the more difficult fights I've had, all of a sudden being swarmed by enemies, but really good loot and really good just gameplay and elements to this world event. So much so that a lot of the hardcore players are hoping that Blood Tides are altered to be more like Hell Tides are altered to be a bit more like a Blood Harvest. So we'll see. I don't know how easy that will be for the devs to do, to be honest with you. There's a number of mechanics in the Blood Harvest that make it different. Okay. So in the Blood Harvest, the number of activities, including one where you all work together to activate 3 pedestals. Because you need this like currency called a blood lure, and certain enemies drop that. And there's an area that's marked by this crazy looking demonic vampire head. And in that area are 3 pedestals. Each one you need 50 blood lures. Now, in 45 minutes, I was able to get a total of 67 or 77 blood lures. So you need 150 to activate this thing. So the best idea is you do one, and then random people end up showing up and do the other ones, and then all hell breaks loose with an insane swarm of vampires, things called Seekers, that are basically like the Wanderer characters that we play, the different classes and everything, and with the same abilities, but they're vampires, and they're incredibly dangerous. And yeah, that is a lot of fun. Also, those Seekers, they drop special keys. They drop special keys called Seeker Keys that open up coffins that have something in it called Potent Blood, which lets you upgrade your vampiric powers this season. What level am I on? I am currently on, I want to say 30, no, I think I'm 40 or 41 right now. Out of 100, I'm at like 40 or 41. I know that because at like 45, you get your upgrade to your potion, your health potion. So, yeah, but I love this season, and more importantly, most of the players love this season. That's a very good sign, especially because in like early November, when they have BlizzCon, it's almost a guarantee they're going to announce with details the first big game expansion. Now, some leak came out, and it's hard to say if it's true or not, that it's going to be in Kurast. And Kurast was this really cool kind of mostly like forest area where the, oh God, is it the Triune? I'm trying to remember. Akarat? Anyway, it's where these cultists were. in Diablo 2. So there are a lot of people excited that it's going to be an area that was in Diablo 2 because that is such a beloved game in the series. If anyone's asked, I would say that the most beloved is Diablo 2, and then Diablo 1 and Diablo 3. Now, a lot of that's because Diablo 3, I'm not going to include 4 yet. I'm just going to look at those first 3. Diablo 3 basically launched in a rough state, and it took like 3 or 4 years to make it the great game that it ended up being. Okay? There weren't always greater riffs. There wasn't always a really good end game. It wasn't always like that. Like, I didn't start playing it until it came out on like Xbox 360. So I want to say like 2-3 years after the PC version. Okay. Now, Spider-Man 2. Now we're going to have some, not really news, more like opinion. Kind of what I think of the game, like a preview, even though I know it's out and everything. I haven't finished it, so there's no way I could even think of doing a review for Spider-Man 2. Okay, I think it's great. I want to say that right out in front. It's great. And I'm not going to have any spoilers, no story spoilers here. I will say, though, that I find that Kraven's soldiers are a bit overtuned. If you're playing a normal difficulty, they're going to wipe the floor with you. Some of their hits are like 50% of your health, 75% of your health. They are not as much fun to fight as enemies in the first 2 games. And a lot of them have area of effect attacks. A lot of them can shut off your ability to use your powers. There's just a lot to deal with them. And it's almost like they cheat. Like they'll hide in darkness and they'll be above you attacking. And there are points where I've had to dodge like 4 or 5 times in a row just to get 1 or 2 hits out on an enemy. It completely alters your strategy of playing the game, and especially if you have upgrades that are like, hey, a 4-hit combo. Well, good luck getting that 4-hit combo when you're fighting Kraven's army. Okay. Now, beyond that, I had a few minor bugs. In the very, very opening, and this is only a spoiler if you haven't seen the commercial that came out right before the game came out, a week before it. In the very beginning of the game, like the first half hour, you face off against Sandman in New York. And at one point, you're playing as Miles. Well, it ended up where I was just swinging around Sandman, and it didn't tell me what to do next. So I'm just kind of trying to swing around him, not knowing what to do, and I ended up just restarting the checkpoint, and it was absolutely fine. Another issue I have, and it's not massive, is that there's a number of things you interact with where the icon will not show itself unless you are standing in the exact perfect place. And sometimes that place is not directly in front of it. Sometimes it's to the side of it. Sometimes it's a few feet in front of it. Hard to say. So, but again, as bugs go and things like that, that to me is relatively minor. I only had that one issue where I actually had to restart a checkpoint. So, I will say though that the story, traversal, and the missions are excellent. The way they handle the missions, the way you think it's going to be one thing and becomes something else and surprises you. Missions that a lot of people had issue with in the first game, the Mary Jane stealth missions, feel much better here. And I honestly had no problem with them in the first game, to be honest with you. I thought they were pretty cool. I like the fact that each one added a new layer. First off, she's just trying to hide. Secondly, she's able to like knock down boxes of tools and stuff to get people out of the way. Then she gets a freaking not a zapper, what do you call those, electric gun thing where she's able to zap people. So like, yeah, that I thought was cool. Okay, now that's the end of the Spider-Man talk for now. Super Mario Brothers Wonder is another Game of the Year contender. If I forgot to say, by the way, Spider-Man 2 is definitely a Game of the Year contender. Even with the issue I've had with Kraven's people, the game is a Game of the Year contender. Okay, so basically it's one of the best Mario games I've ever played. One of my best friends who got it for, long story short, I ended up getting it for my friend's son for their birthday, like a pre-order. Uh, and they ended up getting it, and he watched his son play it, and he's played with his son, and he's amazed by it. And he doesn't play a lot of games. He's like, this is really, really good. But because, you know, as a kid, he's played most of the Mario games with his kid. Okay, so yeah, it's one of the best Mario games ever, honestly. It needs to be a new franchise. What I mean by that is Super Mario Brothers. A new Super Mario Brothers. Okay? Mario Galaxy. Those are basically like the new franchises. There's multiple games in each series, and one of the big differentiators here is this is the Flower Kingdom. We're no longer in the Mushroom Kingdom in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So I'm certain this entire giant, Flower Kingdom has worlds we haven't seen in this game, and they could definitely do another game. So there are these things called Wonder Seeds, and they're transformative items, and they completely alter every level of the game. And in most ways, they're delightful. Like, it's gonna change everything, and it's not going to be terribly punishing. It's going to be a sequence that isn't that long, but it's this really cool, like, psychedelic, insane element of the game. Okay? And then also the animations. They spent more in the budget and time making this game to have animations that would appeal to fans of the new movie. The devs actually mentioned that. Nintendo devs actually mentioned that. And it's amazing here. Like, basically Mario drops his cap as he enters a pipe. His arm reaches out, grabs the cap, and then he comes out the other side. An elephant Mario tries to force himself through the pipe. Like, all these little animations everywhere you could think of. It's just really beautiful. It's really great. And yeah, it definitely gives me Super Mario World vibes. And Super Mario World is probably like my favorite, if not close to my favorite Super Mario game and even platform game. So, okay. Now, I'm going to do a bit of a public service to video game fans right now. And I'm actually going to probably do a version of this on my TikTok as well. Okay, here we go, everybody. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I, Hoardergamer, give my permission for WB Games to heavily promote the game now. You have my permission. It comes out in just over 3 months. It is now time for the deep damn dive. It's time for a trailer. It's time for a beta. There's no need to wait anymore. No other company's marketing seems terrified to talk about more than one game at a time. Anyone that's looking forward to and getting Hogwarts Legacy on the Nintendo Switch probably doesn't have a PS5 or Series X. By now they would already have it on another console or PC. So this honestly doesn't even make sense anymore. Just let us know what's going on with the game. Let us see it in action. Blow our minds. Some of the devs and tweets and stuff were like, you just saw a fraction of it. There's so much you haven't seen. There's so much you don't know about. So many elements, so many modes and things like that. Well, show us. Show us. We have just over 3 months now. I believe as of November 2nd, it's like 3 months till the game comes out. Game Awards is too late. Okay? Don't even play that. I would hope it'd be tomorrow, honestly. Like, you... So WB Games, and again, this is not on the devs at Rocksteady. No, WB Games marketing. You can start now. You have my permission. Okay, and next week, RoboCop Rogue City launches on November 2nd. Or if you get the digital only Alex Murphy edition, October 31st. 48 hours early and some cool cosmetics like the damaged RoboCop look from the first movie. Also for pre-order, I believe you get the blue RoboCop look from RoboCop 2. Some people say it's a little too blue. I think it looks good. I think in a game it had to be. Otherwise it looks too much like the gunmetal gray silver he usually looks. I think it has to, you have to be able to read it in the game. It's got to stand out. So, and you'll definitely want to make sure to pre-order it, or you will nuke your chances at getting that RoboCop 2 skin. Because nuke is the drug that is really big in the RoboCop universe. The Kane is, Okay. What game is this? I don't know, Stixie. What? RoboCop Rogue City. Seen a commercial for AR Batman game. At first I thought it was for Suicide Squad. Yeah, but apparently it's oddly expensive. I don't want to say anything. I don't know. People are talking about like it has a high price tag for some reason. I don't know if it's a board game with AR mixed in. I'm not sure. Something about, I think, Harley Quinn or something. I don't know. But yes, that's all the video game news we have. So now, everybody, it's time for us to toy around. Okay? And first up, we have a pretty awesome looking Wonder Woman figure. Now, here's something really weird that happened this week, everybody. McFarlane Toys. Almost all of these are going to be McFarlane Toys. And that usually doesn't happen. It's usually different companies and things like that. But McFarlane just had... Well, they definitely took 2 spots for absolutely sure. So I knew right there and then, okay, those 2 are taken. I need to show that. I need to talk about that before Friday when it goes on sale. I knew that. So this is an awesome looking Wonder Woman figure. And I think this picture actually launched like the 21st. So it was like, I think during the weekend. But I think it's a really cool take. I think the shield looks awesome. I think Diana looks great. I really like this figure. I think it's a good figure. And remember, these are like the 7-inch figures. Because that's like the size that McFarlane makes their toys. They're about an inch larger than like the Star Wars figures and the Marvel Legends. Okay. So that's our first toy. Next up we have... Now this is pretty nuts, everybody. This is pretty neat. I forget if it's 40 or 50, but it's Pacific Rim. What you are looking at are 3 4-inch action figures painted and detailed, and then 4 buildings, I believe it's 4, that are in 3 pieces each. So like they can be broken up like they're destroyed, and then you get jets, and you get tanks. So it's the idea that you're actually creating like to scale a playset for Pacific Rim. And they have just about all the monsters and all the Jaegers. So I think it's pretty awesome. One thing I will say, it does seem a little pricey. So if you buy them separately, it's a building in 3 pieces. Maybe it comes with a tank or a jet. I'm not sure about that. But it's a building in 3 pieces that's 4 inches tall, roughly, maybe 5. Because they do, some of them seem to be larger than the actual figures. And then a 4-inch figure. And that's like $20. So that's how they're selling them. A building that you can break down and a Jaeger or one of the monsters. I know the monsters had a name. I can't recall what it is, but yeah. But I think this is really cool. I like what they did here. I don't know if there's something that lets the jets kind of look like they're floating, or what? I couldn't see any other pieces with the set. And I think the set's Amazon exclusive. It's like $39.99 or $49.99. Again, 3 figures, like 4 buildings, and a whole mess of tanks and jets and helicopter type things. Okay. But yeah, for fans of Pacific Rim, I think that's pretty awesome. I like the first movie. I never saw the second one. But I gotta say, I love the whole idea of like having the whole diorama that you can build. It's pretty awesome. Next up, everybody, we have something awesome that I said took up 2 pictures or 2 spaces. Just so you understand, I always like to have 4 to 5 toys at the absolute most. 2 things: the amount of time I spent talking about toys each week, and secondly, the amount of real estate to simply just grab the picture and show everybody what it is. Okay. The main man, everybody, Lobo. Okay? Look at that. Comes with the guitar. He comes with his pet dog. That's DAWG. Look at the sculpt. Look at the detail. It gets better, everybody. It gets better. This is an Amazon exclusive going on sale on Friday. And I'm not going to say the price yet. The price will make sense when I show you the other picture. Okay, so here's the other picture. So, 2 heads. One head with the crazy rock star hair, the other with the normal kind of regular Lobo look you would expect. Okay? And Lobo's vehicle, the hog, right behind him. So it's a 6-inch vehicle. I'm sorry, it's a 6-inch figure and a vehicle that fits that scale, 6 inches, a guitar, an extra head, his pet dog, and it looks like some weapons. It'll be a exclusive on Amazon.com on Friday at $69.99. Keep in mind that's the vehicle, figure with all the accessories. So when you look at it as like that package, I think that price is very fair for what you're getting. If you go online, you can find even better pictures of the, I think it's called the Roadhog, his vehicle. But yeah, the main man, Lobo, I figured I had to show everyone that because it's a really good sculpt, a lot of detail, and the vehicle looks phenomenal. Like if you see the full vehicle, it's really nice looking. Okay, everybody. We're just about done toying around. So now we're actually going to look at the future of comic books. The future of comics all the way to 1 week from today. First up, I'll say not a heavy week. I believe it is I think it's the 5th Tuesday or Wednesday of the month. And usually when that happens, that's not a real loaded comic week. There are a couple notable things, but it's not like, well, I'll have like 6 or 7 books and I have to whittle it down to 4 or 5 for the show. Like there were like 2 today, and I had to find a 3rd one. Okay. First up, I honestly don't know how good this is going to be. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Superman 30th anniversary one-shot. These are stories that are going to take place in the period after Superman is killed by Doomsday. And it's a one-shot, different writers and artists. It's going to be $9.99. And based on that price, I'm going to guess it's probably going to be about like 80 some pages or so. Because it's very rare that they would charge that much and it would be like 40 pages. So I think that page-wise and everything, you'll get your money's worth. I just don't know what the level of story is going to be. When you go into an anthology like this, there's always the question of quality. Some of my best anthologies will have like 2 or 3 stories I don't like, but then like 6 or 7 I really do. So hard to say. Hard to say. But I think it's interesting to let writers and artists work in that, 30-year ago world of Superman. So next up we have, this I've read actually, Batman Gotham by Gaslight. Steampunk, Victorian, Batman. Going after the... Oh my god, I wanted to say the Grim Reaper. It's not the Grim Reaper. Oh my god. Jack the Ripper. There we go. Not Reaper, Ripper. Ripper. So, Batman going after Jack the Ripper. Many years ago I read this, though. Mike Mignola is one of the artists. And basically, this also has the sequel. They did a sequel that takes place in the future, insanely enough. And I believe it's $19.99 for the trade. You get both those, and then you get certain specific issues of, I believe it's Shazam, and then another book as well. So, Gotham by Gaslight, reprinting, and it's a very cool story. I have not read the future one, though. The sequel one I haven't read. In fact, that was a surprise to me. I never knew they did a follow-up to Gotham by Gaslight. Real interesting little bit of trivia. At one point, there was going to be a Batman Gotham by Gaslight game. But it was like a pitch. There was like some art, maybe some screenshots, I forget. But it never happened. It was like the game was actually never like really made. So I don't think it was fully greenlit or something. But yeah, it's a cool story. And there's also an animated film that's pretty damn good. I'd say the comic is better, but the animated film is still really good. And next up, from the Spider-Verse to readers everywhere, Spider-Boy, #1 by Dan Slott. One of the best Marvel writers for Spider-Man. Also did an incredible run for She-Hulk. Spider-Boy, #1. And it's all about the almost boy wonder type action and excitement that Peter Parker and this character that has been lost to history have gotten into. So, and it involves Spider-Verse stuff. So, obviously it gets a little bit on the complicated side. But it's something I definitely wanted to bring up because it sounded neat. And I really like Dan Slott. So yeah, Spider-Boy #1. I would say of all the stuff coming out next week, that's probably the biggest thing. It's probably the biggest thing. Also, a really hot book, everybody, that came out today that I just sort of found out about recently. James Tynion IV, My Good Man. Because every time I say James Tynion IV's name, I have to put My Good Man after it. Did a Dracula book for Image. And it sold out at my shop in 2 hours. So it's hot. It's hot. And oddly enough, the really cool clerk at the comic shop I go to made kind of a joke about it, saying like, yeah, week before Halloween, a Dracula book, James Tynion. We certainly ordered enough copies of that, didn't we? Which I thought was funny. I thought it was funny. But no, it looks really cool. And I actually ended up ordering a copy because they were expecting to get more in. Tickets yet for the Marvels? Yes, I do have Marvels tickets. I do. Uh, Xbox Live Mike, also known as Mike in chat right now. I'm actually attending with them. Okay, so let me put Spider-Boy away and back into the Spider-Verse. See what I did there? And now you might think we're at the end of our show. Not quite. Not quite. If I can have you for just a few more minutes. I want to tell you all about our Lord and Savior, Carol Danvers. I freaked you out there, didn't I? That one sentence freaked everyone out. Okay. Captain Marvel #1. Jen Bartel has completely redone the character. This is their new look. And it is very good. Introduces a new villain / anti-hero called the Omen. And she is freaky. She looks like an angel from hell. Very intense. And she seems friendly at first. But then when she gets near Captain Marvel, she ends up trying to drain all of her power from her. Meanwhile, Yuna Yang, a young woman, is trying to get a hold of these magical bands. And Genus Val, one of the other Marvels, happens to have it. So, while she's trying to go and steal these bands to cover college costs, all hell breaks loose and the Omen shows up, ends up, I kid you not, cutting off Genus Val's arms in order to get the magical bands from him. Just swipes with her insane clawed hands and severs his arms. It's like an oh my god situation. Anyway, Yuna Yang ends up getting the bands and ends up like going like that and switches places with Captain Marvel. And now Carol Danvers and Yuna are connected and they're swapping between reality and I believe that's called the negative zone. It's crazy. It's crazy. And comic book fans, it's the first appearance of the Omen. A brand new, like I said, villain and or anti-hero. And she absorbs power. And she can absorb quite a bit of it. And she seems to be working for someone and or has her own agenda that we're not quite sure of. But it involves a Marvel. She originally wanted the powers from Captain Marvel, but she was like, Genus will do. So, pretty interesting stuff. I really like it. I think it's good. I think it's a good direction. For an issue 1, introducing a new character and then kind of like telling a story. It's going to be almost, in a way, through that character's eyes, that isn't, or at least wasn't a hero before. Technically now, she's connected to Captain Marvel. Yuna is connected to Captain Marvel, so. And some other wacky, crazy things happen involving the Omen and Genus, but for that, you'll just have to read the issue. Because again, I don't like to spoil a book completely. I just don't understand the purpose of that. Okay, everybody, I want to thank you all very much for watching. If for any reason you want to see more of me, I don't know how you can stomach more than, 45 minutes a week. But if you can, twitch.tv/Hoardergamer. Currently doing Spider-Man 2, Diablo 4. I will be doing Alan Wake 2. I don't know exactly when. And I know for sure I'll be doing RoboCop Rogue City. So I'm very much looking forward to those. And yeah, everybody, I want to thank Doom Squad Gaming and Doomkiller HD for letting me borrow the channel again. Thank you very much. And definitely check out the other members of Doom Squad Gaming. We're constantly doing stuff. A lot of us streamed Spider-Man 2 last weekend, and that was really fun. I was going to have a bit more of a structured thing for that, but it ended up being more loose. But I think it was really cool. I think it was still a really cool thing. Everybody, I hope you have a great week, and I will see you later. Bye bye.